I was very, very fortunate that that I was able to meet Mayor Baba while he was still in the body in his physical form. It's important that everybody understand that Baba said many times when I was there, I heard him say it, that I am not the body. Don't mix me up with the body. I'm not the body. I am everywhere in everything, and I am beyond everywhere and beyond everything. But most of all, I am closer to you than your own breath. So what's closer to us than our own breath? It's our very self. And that's what he was trying to make us understand, that there is only one self. That one self plays the role of being behind the bodies and the minds of all persons and animate, inanimate, everything is one self that's behind the bodies and minds of everything. And that's how he could say that he is everywhere and everything. Well, he wanted us to know that it's all love. Everything is love. God is more concerned and more happy with the love that he has for each and all beings than we can ever imagine. We can love also, we can love our families, we can love our children, we can love, but when you get the love that he's talking about, then you'll know what love really is for everything. Now, Baba did something. When I was there, he asked if anyone had any questions. So, no one raised their hand. There was about 15 of us in the room. No one raised their hand. And so, Baba asked again. He said, if anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. Well, again, nobody raised their hand. But I felt that Baba wanted me to ask something. I mean, it was a very strong feeling, but I didn't raise my hand. So Baba turns to me and he says, Erwin, do you have a question? Now I'm thinking, I have one question to ask. It should be the one question that answers all questions. So I sat and I was thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. What is that question that would answer all questions? I can't even think of the question that answers all questions. So I'm taking my good time with this because now I have the opportunity of asking this. And then so I'm thinking everybody is still, Baba's quiet and still, he's not, there's no impatience in anything. Everybody is waiting and waiting for me to say something, to ask a question. And then it occurs to me what I had read that Baba himself had said when I read it from the book. He said, the one who asks for my love will be the chosen one. So I thought, oh, I just remembered this now. I said, I don't know what divine love is. I never experienced it. I think I'm going to go for that. So I said, Baba, I would like to have all your love. So Baba looks, and he looks at this one and that one in the room, and he says, do you experience my love? Do you have it? No. Do you? No. Do you? Nobody has that love like that. All this love. So he turns to me and he said, why should I give you my love? Why shouldn't I give it to him or to her or this one? Why you? So I said, Baba, I would like you give your love to whomever you want to, but I want to experience it too. So then Baba picks up a jar. There was a little table by his side. He picks up this jar off the table and he puts his arms around it like this. I am the ocean of love. I am everywhere. I am the ocean. And you are in this jar, but there's a lid on it. All you have to do is remove the lid, and the ocean of love that I am, you'll experience it. So I'm thinking, this is Sounds so easy and so simple. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. I'm not experiencing anything right now. All I'm experiencing is Baba telling me this. And just as I was about to say something to Baba, someone else came in the room and the subject changed, everything that changed. There was no opportunity anymore to ask. But I'll tell you what it was. I'll tell you what I had in mind. I was going to say, Baba, I'm on the inside of the jar. You're on the outside. You're free. I'm bound. You have to take it off because I can't do it from the inside. I was going to say this. But the truth of the matter is, it was self-evident. Because as I thought about it later, I said, well, that's why I'm here with Baba. I've come to see Baba. Why? So that I can become free. So I can become, to know what my real state, my real consciousness is. I'm here for that. And Baba is showing me. That's why I've come. It answered it. That was the answer. Well, all right. What I really wanted to tell you about is Francis Brabazon. Because as I'm sitting there one day, I was there for 2 weeks, as I'm sitting there one day, Baba says, he turns to me and he says, you can ask whatever questions you want now to Francis Brabazon. Now Francis is sitting there too. And Francis was not the type of person that really cared to be answering questions. I wasn't even there wanting to even ask him anything. But now Baba has said this. So we both went outside after our little session with Baba. And we're sitting on the bench, and I'm trying to think of something to ask him, and I do. And I ask him a couple of questions, a few questions, whatever they were. I can't even remember now what they were. In the meantime, and he answers, and we're having this little togetherness by Baba's wish. Little did I know that this was going to be very, very important, what was happening. Because 15 years later, I wanted to go and with my film crew to film Francis at Avatar's abode, telling his stories about Avatar's abode and about his being with Meher Baba. He was a very important person to film. So so I wrote to Francis. This is the story now. So I wrote to Francis saying what I would like to do. I'd like to come and I'd like to film him. I would be filming others as well. He writes back and says, no, don't come. I'm not going to be available for filming. Oh boy, what's the point of going? I mean, he's one of the main persons. Now, so some months go by, and I write to him again, and I said, Francis, we like very much, so many people are going to want to hear your stories of what it was like to be with Baba. And we need to come and I want to film that because I'm filming different Baba stories from people. So he writes back again, and he says, no. Don't come, I'm not going to be available, I'm not doing this. Wow, that meant that the point and the big part of the purpose of going was to do this. So I'm thinking, well, what can I do about this? Because he's really not wanting to do this. And then it comes to me. Baba had given me the key to make this happen. 15 years before, when we sat on that bench, and Baba told me to ask him questions. All right, now this time, I write to him again. And some months have gone by, I write to him again, and I say, because now I'm going to turn the key, Baba's key, he gave it to me. So I said in my letter, I said, Francis, It is so good that you had all this time with Mayor Baba. We all love to hear your stories. But I want you to tell me if you still think that Baba's order still stands when he told you to answer my questions when I asked them to you on the bench 15 years ago. If you think his order still stands, then I have a lot of questions now and I would like to film you. Now, there was no time to get a reply because the arrangements to travel was, I had already made it, and I made up my mind whether he answers questions or not. It doesn't matter. I'm going to just ask whoever wants to tell their stories. There's so many people in Australia that when Baba had come, that will have things to tell, and if they want to tell it, they're fine. If they don't want to tell it, it'll be okay too. You know, I'm just going to make nobody's going to have to do anything. In the meantime, this letter goes to Francis. Now I arrive, and I have two women that are helping me as part of my film team with Martha Tillema and Ann Woobs, especially Martha. Boy, did she want to meet Francis. She loved to go to Australia. You know, it was very much part of her desire that she could do this someday, and now the opportunity was there for doing it. So now we arrive, and it's Christmas Day at Avatar's abode. And all the people, so many people, are coming to celebrate at the abode, and that had also been there when Baba had come, and could tell the stories about that. But, of course, now Francis is there. So we arrive, and Martha gets out of the car, and we see Francis is standing not far, and she goes over, and Francis greets her so warmly and so nice. And then Ann Woods also goes over, and she greeted very, very warmly by Francis. I said, well, we'll see what happens when I go, because I was after him. So anyhow, I go out, and he is as nice and as, really wonderful as you could ever expect. And the first thing he says to me, he says, if you film, we have to film first in Baba's house, and I'll tell you what happened and how that house was built when we made it. And he says, is that okay? I said, oh yeah, that's really okay. And so it started. And that's what I'm sending to you for the celebration, the film that was taken when we were there at that time. And what Francis had said, this is all on the film. This film has never been shown to anyone so far publicly, and you're going to see it for the first time. And that's and that you will see it. Jai Mayor Baba. I'm sure you have a wonderful celebration. Baba's love and his presence need not be physical, because presence doesn't have to be physical. And he's here with you, and I'm sure many of you are going to feel his love.
Avatar's abode. It was built to receive Baba in 1958 when he came to Australia. He said that in time to come the place would become a place of great pilgrimage, but he himself would not be coming until he came back in 700 years. he wouldn't be coming any more this time. My name is Francis Brabazon. I would like to tell you a few things about this place, Avatar's Abode, which was built for Avatar Meher Baba in 1958. I was living here at that time, and Baba had sent word to me that he was coming, and when he was flying across the Pacific, he sent a cable to me that I was to go down to Sydney and meet him and come back with him on the plane to Brisbane. I went down from here to Brisbane in my car and with a second car for Baba and the Mandalay. And then they stayed in Brisbane and I went on to Sydney and came back with Baba. We arrived here somewhere about noon. There were not a great number of people to welcome Baba, although his message had been given out as well as a few of us could manage. There were probably about 30 or 40 here then, and temporary accommodation had been built for them. The women in bunks of the old farmhouse and the men in army tents. And Baba, of course, stayed in this house here. Well, before I left to go down to meet Baba, I instructed one of the workers here to lock the door that night and give me the key when I arrived next day with Baba. This was done. And I took the key and offered it to Baba and said to him, this is your place, Baba. Will you be pleased to open it? Which he did. And the second day he was here, he said, he gave the key back to me and told me to look after the place for him. It was his place, and I was to look after it for him, and one day would become a place of great pilgrimage. This is the door that Baba opened. This is the key. And so Baba entered his house on the arms of Erich, and I think it was Nariman, because it wasn't so long after his second accident.
Is this the room that Baba saw a lot of people in, Francis?
Yes, this was the main meeting room where Baba met the people. Behind the curtains there were the Mandalay sleeping quarters. Simply four single cots with a kitchen sink. On
Did
this,
Baba see many people in this room?
oh yes, he saw everybody who came here, which was about 20 to 30, as I said a little earlier. And this door on the left leads into Baba's own room, where he slept and worked and gave individual interviews. This is the room where Baba had group interviews, or gave group interviews. And this room here is where Baba rested and did his universal work. This is the room where Baba rested and worked He did his universal work. Now, if you will observe the walls, the timber on the wall, you'll see that there's no nail markings. Each piece of board is completely smooth. We were able to do that by screwing the boards together from the back, and so leave no blemish on the front. Furthermore, each panel done that they can be taken down and removed when we build a more substantial house for Barbara. This was Barbara's bed, and this was his carrying chair. Barbara had his second accident by then, and it was painful for him to walk about. So we had made that carrying chair. Over here on this table is an assortment of things. There's a Barber badge of wings. This is one of his famous alphabet boards. And this is some of his hair. We even saved this strap from the back seat of the car, which Barber held on his way here. When we disposed of the car, we kept this. That is when the car was finally worn out and was disposed of. And that's about all.
Francis, one of the things in the West that we always were interested to know about is how it came about that you were writing such poetry for Baba and for generally the world, because so many people now are able to read it.
It varied. Stay with God was written at Baba's request. I had been invited to spend the month of Sabbath at Mehrabad. With the exception of Don Stevens, who stayed 8 days, I was the only Westerner who stayed right through. At the end of that time, Baba called me and said, now you've been here with me and in my company for a whole month. I want you, when you go back home now, I want you to write a book on your experiences here under the title of Stay with God.
And that was the book that eventually did come out. Where did you read the book to Baba?
This took place in September 1959. Baba gave me to the end of the year to write this book. And by the end of the year, I hadn't even started to write.
Oh my goodness.
Then Baba came.
Yes, Francis, what you were saying.
When Baba came to Mayor House, Sydney, in '56, one of the first questions he asked me was, well, Francis, how's the book going? I said, it isn't. I haven't written a line. And he looked at Erich as much as say, what's this impertinent fellow? Baba gave me to the end of the year, that's 1956, to complete the book. So I had to obey him, and I sat down and wrote a book. And at the end of the year, on the 31st, I finished the book, and I cabled Baba that I had complied with his order and written the book, but the book was of no value, and that if he wanted a good book, he'd have to give me more time. So he gave me 2 more years.
2 more years, I see.
And then when the book was completed, he had me read the whole thing to him from cover to cover.
I see. Was this in India that you wrote the book, or was it here
No,
in
in
Australia?
Australia.
It was in Australia.
A lot of it was written in this room.
I see. And when you were with Bob in India, was it there that you read the whole book to him?
Yes.
I see. From cover to cover.
Mm.
That must have taken a while to read it.
Oh yes, half an hour every day for weeks.
For weeks. I had heard something to the effect that Baba had put you on fast, or there was some kind of
Yes,
something like that sort.
I don't know if there's any connection with that. Baba put me on 2 different fasts, long fasts at different times, but I don't remember any connection with the book.
That wasn't connected with the book.
I don't think so.
What was your impression at the time of writing these books? I mean, it was done totally by Baba's command. And this is the book Stay with God that you're referring to. But did you have any, I mean, what was going through your mind as a writer? You know, that here now God has said, write this book.
Yes, so what?
So, I mean, what was going through your mind when you had to do this here job?
Oh, the book, of course.
It was just a book only? I mean, did you have any thoughts, well, you know, here now Baba is expecting something really good, and
Well, one knows.
can I come up to the...
One knows
standard?
Baba expects something good.
Yeah.
Baba expects one's best, so one just concentrates on doing one's best.
Uh-huh.
One doesn't keep thinking of Baba.
Regarding any instructions that Baba gave you for different books that you had done, what he had said about each one?
Some were ordered by Baba, you might call them commission jobs, and some were done by myself with Baba in view. The little book of Let Us the People Sing, that began by my having a desire to write some songs for children. There weren't any songs for good songs for children. And so I wrote 1 or 2, and when at an opportune time I read them to Baba, or rather I sang them to Baba, and he said, fine. He said, I want you to write a fresh one every day. He said, after 25 days, he said, that's enough now, for now. And I actually did do that, 25, now I'd never written a tune before in my life. So you can say that's an example of Baba's inspiration, supported by one's own sort of common sense and abilities.
Yeah.
Again, with the Industrialized Sing, the ghazals, I had been listening to them now for several years. That's this Persian form of poetry. It was Baba's favourite form. And so I wrote 2 or 3 experimental ghazals. And again, when the opportunity presented itself, I told Baba about them, and he told me to go and get them and read them to him. So I did, and then he gave me a fresh commission. He told me to write a fresh one every day.
One each day?
And in blocks, to present them to him in blocks of 4. And that went on month after month. And
Did you have any difficulty writing such a schedule? Usually a poet has to write when the inspiration occurs, but now
Yes.
you had,
well,
in order to write
we
a certain
don't
number each
believe.
day.
No, you just sit down and I don't know how can you talk about what a poet's processes are, but it's simply that I did.
And you did it.
I did one a day. Sometimes I do a couple in a day, and then afterwards he give me a spell the next day. You see. Eventually, the whole 150 were written and read to Baba on an average about 3 times. Baba had the whole lot read to him right through 3 times altogether. It wasn't continuous. It was sometimes a few months and then there'd be a gap.
When you would read the ghazals to Baba, did Baba comment on any?
commented in no uncertain terms when he particularly liked a piece. He would express it in his gestures and expression and in words. In other words, he seemed to get a great kick out of them.
Oh, yeah? Can you sort of enact a little bit of Baba's gesture of what... That might be going a little too far. All right. At that time, no doubt that you were spending, I guess every single day for some long period of time trying to get everything in order for Baba the way he wanted. Were there any difficulties involved in writing all of this material?
Any difficulties?
Yeah.
In what?
Well, I don't know. Was it ever difficult for you to come up with the number of ghazals that Baba wanted, or any other difficulty that...
No, I managed to fulfill my order each time.
Uh-huh. Well, I know...
You know, in the old days, poets and musicians used to attach themselves to lords at courts, kings and whatnot, you see, and they were given a commission to do a job, and they did a job. For instance, the Shahnameh, the Persian ancient classic, that was a commission job, 30,000 couplets at one golden piece per couplet. Well, when one gets a big commission, one just starts to work on it. Good art is produced by tradesmen, not by artists. Art is just a trade, and you simply practice the trade every day. That's all.
And your commission was that of love?
Oh, call it what
From
you
the
like.
Avatar.
Call it what you like.
Francis, you know the lyrics that you had written in the book Let Us the People Sing. I know very well that it was 25 because at one time Baba said that I had to put music to them.
Which you did.
And I did it while I was driving a taxi cab in New York. So 25 songs.
Good job of them. I remember I was only looking at them the other day.
Were you? Did Bob? Now I wasn't there at the time, so you're going to have to tell me about this. Did Bob ever make any comment about it? I can't remember. Well, the only thing I know is that later Baba said that I should send the manuscripts to him, which I did it, and then he sent me a beautiful cable how much he liked that I had obeyed his instruction.
No doubt,
And
but I don't remember.
That was the last that I knew. Francis, could you just say, being in Marizad for, I think it was 10 years, for as long as you were there, how were you able to see Baba's godhood, the conviction of his godhood each day in such a close proximity with him?
By his being a very ordinary man. No ordinary man could live, behave, carry on the work he carried on. But he did it in such a natural, ordinary sort of a way. And so it was his very humanness, his very humanity was the proclamation of his godhood. Yeah.
By ordinary, what do you mean?
Ordinary, what an ordinary man does. Likes and dislikes, comfort, cold. He felt all the things that we feel. He experienced all the things that we experience. But overriding everything was this truth, perfection, divinity and humanity.
Together.
It's divinity and humanity equals avatar. You write that down as an
Well, did you ever have any opportunity to see Baba's all-knowingness where he really knew everything?
No, he was just constant. You knew all the time that he knew everything. No specific things of mind reading and all that stuff. Just everything. So it was Baba. He was the unique person, God-man. Divinity and humanity. And that was experienced all the time. That's what made living with Baba hard work.
Oh. It was hard.
It's a great burden to live with Baba.
Francis, in the States and in some other places where I've been, people would often ask of what it was like as an artist or as a poet that you are to have been with Baba for so many years. I mean, what was your own personal feeling about being with him in that capacity?
But I wasn't with Baba in that capacity, that is the capacity of a poet. I was there purely as a disciple. I continued to write because writing had been my habit for years. And it was a time pass at India for pastime. In the evenings, I used to spend most of my nights from about 9 o'clock. Most of my work was done at night between 9 and 1 o'clock in the morning. It was too hot to sleep. So I would just apply myself to my writing. But I didn't tackle writing as an artist. I tackled writing as a tradesman, craftsman. So I had no sense of being there as an artist and all the sensitivities of an artist. I was just there battling it through.
I see.
Battling it through, did you get that?
Yeah. So, it seems then that you were doing this more as obedience. There's something that Baba said to do than even as...
Because I was doing it as obedience, but it wasn't an irksome obedience. There was no... just... well, Baba told one to do something, one did it.
He did it, yeah.
That was why one was there. One wasn't there to be an artist. One was there to write or not write, as Baba said. If you said write, if you said don't write, you wrote or didn't write.
Francis, you had been saying about your going to India was at Baba's call, and that you had gone 3 times, but then this was the 4th time. Would you tell about that?
Yes. For the 4th time, Baba sent word for me to come to him at Maribad. And as I didn't give any fixed period. He didn't tell me to come for good. He invited me to come, so I went, and as usual, I took a return ticket.
Yes.
And when 7 years were up, and Baba had still said nothing about me returning, I got permission to go to Bombay to get a refund on my money. After 7 years,
After 7 years of being in India,
yes,
you finally got a refund on your return ticket.
Yes. So then I stayed until Baba dropped his body.
Ah, I see. That's right. You, Francis, you were mentioning about Andhra State, that you had gone with Baba on a trip to Andhra State. What actually happened then?
What do you mean, what happened then? I just went with Baba.
You went with Baba?
Yeah.
Well,
we toured the state of India. You read all about that. There's nothing to comment on it.
Well, since you were there at the time,
what I had to say of it is conveyed in the booklet anyway. State Journey with God. There's a tour of the state of Andhra.
How long was that tour?
2 weeks.
That was 2 weeks.
Mm.
And someone had told me that Baba had once sent you out with his instruction to be, in a sense, this may not be the right word, his representative, and that at that time many people, you had seen many people and embraced many people for Baba. Does this ring a bell with you?
It's pure nonsense.
Pure nonsense?
Yes.
All right, well, that takes care of
Barbara,
that.
Barbara never sent anybody out to embrace people in his stead.
Uh-huh.
Utter nonsense.
All right, well, that takes care of that rumor.
Yeah.
But I would like to know a little bit more about the 2 weeks what occurred at that time.
Nothing good, just mass
Yeah.
actions, different towns every day. We were like a travelling theatre group. Fresh stand every day, every night. Provincial theatre group. There were 40 altogether.
40?
Barbara with 40. He commented on that. He said, I like the number 40. Do you remember the story of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves? Well, I'm Ali Baba and these are the thieves.
I would.
That was good, wasn't it? It's a funny bit.
Okay. Francis, we had made up some questions hopefully to help remind you of some of the incidents that occurred when you were with Baba. Now, one of the questions that I had people asking me was when you spoke with the Mandalay, or when you were with the Mandalay, there were times when Baba ignored them completely, each one individually, at certain times. Did Baba ever do that with you?
Yes, he did. On several occasions.
It must have struck you kind of deeply for Baba to do that.
Oh, no one felt that what Baba did at any time was the right. Yes, Baba did ignore me sometimes. It was just, one didn't feel it was anything personal, anything to do with oneself. It's just that one wasn't in the show at that time. You see, he was talking about something that didn't concern me. Although he still required me to sit in his presence, I was never allowed to go outside.
Yeah.
I just had to sit there and say nothing.
Right.
Just be there.
Just be there.
And just life went on. And I was just there, sitting there, see, doing nothing. On such occasions, the talk would mostly be in Gujarati, so I didn't know what they were saying. I was neither allowed to leave the room nor to go to sleep. I had to be alert, doing nothing. Okay.
Did Bob ever speak of the perfect masters while you were there?
Frequently. His favourite perfect master, the one he quoted most often, was Hafiz. Then next to that was Kabir. And sometimes he mentioned the life of Ramakrishna Paramhans.
What about his own perfect masters, that Hazrat Babashan or
Oh, yes, he spoke of all them, but that's all been recorded.
I see. I was wondering if you might remember any of the comments about them that may not have been written in any of the books.
No.
We read that Bob on occasion would sometimes pitch one disciple against another. Have you ever witnessed that?
No, not really.
Not really?
Yeah, I understood it when I was there that it did occur sometimes, but I didn't see it.
You never saw that?
No.
Erich was saying that it was sometimes a very amusing thing to see Baba stimulating one against the other.
Oh well, he did in that. I thought you meant in a larger frame. He would sort of needle one against another, as it were, and then just sort of sit back and enjoy the fun.
Can you remember any particular time when that happened, or what he was doing?
Yeah.
All right. Did the Mandalay always get along with each other, or was there also controversy amongst the
No, there was often
group?
controversy, even quarrels. But the remarkable thing about the Mandalay was that the quarrels, whenever hugged to one's breast, and they would be a flare-up and a dying down and finish. Bob generally finished such a thing by ordering them to embrace one another. And then it was finished.
Then it was all.
And now
My name is Robert Rouse. My wife's Lorna Rouse, and Drada Rouse, her daughter. We live at Avatar's Abode, where Baba came in 1958. The house that we live in was the original farmhouse on the property, which is in quite a nice setting up that away, and Francis decided that would be an ideal place to put the barber house. So the farmhouse was moved down to its present location. At the time, there was no concrete on that road there. It was just a bulldozed dirt track. It had rained for a month, and the house was brought down on the back of a truck. The bulldozer at the back to slow it down so it didn't run away, and it was moved and set up in this new position here.
It was pretty dangerous bringing it
It was quite dangerous bringing it down because of the slipperiness of the surface, and it was a house on 2 railway lines, and too much movement and the thing would have been lost. This is the original farmhouse that was on the property. Where it stands now is a pineapple farm. Patch was there, that was bulldozed out and the place level for the house so that the barber house could be built where there was flowering shrubs, etc. The farmhouse was used as quarters for the women during Barber's stay here. He visited it about the second day, I think he was here. He came down and went up the front steps and into the house.
One day, after a session inside the house with Barber, Barber came out here supported by Erich and Nariman and walked up and down here slowly, and then stopped on this spot where I'm standing, and turning to the Mandalis, he said, "I like this very much." And then he said, "I'm very happy with it." That's all.
This was in reference to Avatar's abode.
Yes, yes. The whole, the Everett abode and the whole panorama. He liked it very much. And Barber added that one day this place of his would become a great place of pilgrimage.
Take this heart, oh blacksmith, take this heart, make it a cup for wine. Shake the cup, oh blacksmith, shake the cup in love's own fair design. Take this breath, oh blacksmith, take this breath as bellows for the fire. See the sparks, oh blacksmith, see the sparks leap higher, ever higher. Take these tears, oh blacksmith, take these tears to temper the job done. See the cup, oh blacksmith, see the cup.
Jai Baba, everybody. This next song is called I Saw the Sun. I saw the sun,
I saw the sun
rising out of the ocean. I saw the sun rising out of the blue. saw the sun rise soft and tender. I felt my heart to you surrender. Love's light was shining in my soul. There you are, my world and heaven above, my guide through life and my one true love. And I heard the waves,
I heard the waves
rolling in from the ocean. I heard the waves rolling in from the blue. I heard the waves roll soft and tender. I felt my mind to you surrender. Love's word was whispering in my soul. There you are, my world and heaven above, my guide through life and my one true love. And I felt the wind,
I felt the wind
returning back to the ocean. I felt the wind returning back to the blue. I felt the wind blow soft and tender. I felt my breath to you surrender. Love's joy returning to my soul. There you are, my world and heaven above, my guide through life and my one true love. I saw the sun,
I saw the sun
rising out of the ocean. I saw the sun rising out of the blue. I saw the sun rise soft and tender. I felt my heart to you surrender. Love's light was shining in my soul. There you are, my world and heaven above, my guide through life and my one true love.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
The dawn light breaks against my grief of stubborn days. The world awakes each thing to sing your praise, and I alone stir not as though it's still a night. As a dull stone, though sun shines, gives no light. May hear, all things reflect your face so fair. In each that sings, you of yourself are aware. But though I see you winning beauty everywhere, unless you give me love, what is all this to me? The dawn light sings up from the wells of lovers' eyes, and gladness springs in wild new melodies, and I alone remain unmoved by all around, as a dull stone, though struck, gives out no sound. I see your wedding beauty everywhere. Unless you give me love, what is all this to me? The dawnlight blooms within each heart, and nightingales their songs resume, which tell of sweet sad tales. And I alone, hidden in darkest night, remain as a dull stone, though broken knows no pain. May hair, all things reflect your beauty rare. In every sweet song you alone are there. But though I see your winning beauty everywhere, unless you give me love, what is all this to me? Unless you give me love, what is all this to me?
You wonders that on the sparkles nothing but pain. You wonders that on the sparkles nothing but pain. And we clearly assented, but now we complain. You wonders that on the sparkles nothing but pain. We were assenting to what was our idea of pain. We were assenting to what was our idea of pain. Tangible enemies to be suffered for love's gain. Tangible enemies to be suffered for love's gain. And we gravely assented, but now we complain. You warned us that on the sparkles nothing but pain. an hourly sonnet on the road of this day, and we clearly scented which now we can pray. You waters down these bottles, nothing but trade. You told us that the only traffic